Hey, Wanderlusters, I've got something special for you. A very amazing human being that you absolutely have to meet, Jake Sasseville. He is the co-founder and president of Imiloa Institute, which is an amazing retreat center in Costa Rica. And I need to introduce you to him and this place because what they're doing is amazing. Welcome, Jake. Thanks so much for being here with me today. Please feel free to introduce yourself and tell everybody, what's the deal? Why
Yeah.
Imiloa?
I love being here, Sherry. Thanks so much for asking me to do this. Their Imiloa Institute in Costa Rica is an intercontinental institute for the education and advancement of humanity. And a few years ago, I was starting to see this trend with retreat centers that there were all these spaces to hold beautiful retreats, but very few of them had machines, people behind the scenes that were actually able to help you operate them. And so we wanted to create something different in the marketplace. And there we are. And I learned a ton from you and your group. I know I've told you before I even opened up, because I wanted to understand the mind of someone who was trying to host retreats. And so I've just gotten so much benefit from this group, and I'm so happy to be here.
Thanks, Jake.
Yeah.
So tell me what makes Imiloa stand out amongst all the retreat centers? Because you and I know there's plenty of stuff out there, some good, some bad, and some really excellent. And I
Yeah.
know that you guys really are trying to be the cream of the crop in what you're offering and how you offer it. So if you could share a little bit with the community, like what does make Imiloa special? Like, why should we be paying attention to you guys?
Yeah, well, I think first and foremost, what we've recognized is that beauty really is in the eye of the beholder. So we're just grateful for all the 5-star reviews. So we think we're doing something. We
Yeah.
think we're doing something right. I will say how we tried to differentiate when we first set, because we just bought the place in June. We built
Mhm.
an additional 12 beautiful luxury homes and accommodations over the last several months. And and we've hosted 15 groups and have 29 more coming. So there's a sense of wonder when you get on that campus. The fact that some of the homes are 200-year-old homes from Bali. We really aimed in our building out of the social space, which is a 3,000 square foot mega structure in the middle of the jungle at the end of the road at the top of a mountain. It's a superstructure that you literally drive into, and it is just a remarkable experience of engineering and creativity and art, but also it feels like home. It's kind of this Tulum chic vibe as well in terms of how we chose the furniture and the furnishings. And the Bali homes help it feel like home. We have a variety of accommodations. The Bali homes are up on the cliff overlooking 1,000 acres. And then there are other, we have geodesic river domes, and then our jungle bungalows, which go down to our waterfall. So the accommodations themselves are very, they're very diverse. And I think the team that we have there of operators, which are local Costa Ricans, our director of retreats is indigenous Costa Rican from the Bribri tribe. You just can't get a level of authenticity in terms of being in a foreign country at a retreat anywhere else like this. I mean, they're from top down. I really learned from Oprah early days, and it sounds ironic, but when one thing is out of alignment, everything is. And so me and my business partner and co-founder, Nadav, we've just really focused on alignment. And when you come from that sort of spirit of service and posture of learning, it allows true transformation to occur. And I think what also makes, before I throw it back over to you, what I think makes Imiloa really standing out is who we're standing for.
Right.
And I share this with people because we stand not just for the host that's coming or the 30 or 40 people. We're standing unified as a group. We're standing for the 30 or 40 communities that are touched, transformed, or otherwise inspired when those people go back out into the world. So that shows up and animates how we interact with people, the level of service that we're providing, the level of empathy and compassion. And, we feel like it's doing something. It's making this ripple effect. 89% of people who host here sign up to host again. So it's like, whatever. I got my numbers, Sherry. I like my numbers.
Of course.
No, but that to me is a signifier, like, okay, we're having this ripple effect. It's one thing for someone to sit here and say, oh, look at everything we're doing. But when the numbers speak to the vision of what's occurring, then it feels like that the two are kind of intersected.
Exactly. And I agree 100%. For those of you who don't know, Imiloa is on the west coast of Costa Rica. So if you flew into San Jose, you've got to go south. And so the way that the west coast of Costa Rica goes, since it kind of angles in, you have to look on the map, but basically it's in a lovely area. It's not on the ocean. It's up high looking over the ocean, but you can get down there. So
it's 12 minutes. It's 12 minutes. Yeah. We have beautiful. The other thing is that we found that a lot art pricing in many regards, we're all inclusive. So for a rate that often surprises people, it is just all inclusive, including all the transportation. So if your group decides, oh, we want to go to the beach. I mean, our director of retreats, I think a day before, a group of 40 was like, we'd like a beach party tomorrow to close out our event. And she was like, okay. And she made the most amazing beach party on this abandoned beach. So it's 12 minutes away, but it is nice being in those mountains for the elevation. And we get people also want to be on the beach occasionally too. So, we try to make it easy.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about the food, Jake, because people want to know about the food. You know how things are now. Yeah. You have a group of people and someone's vegan, someone's vegetarian, someone's gluten-free. This one doesn't eat meat. That one doesn't eat fish. How do you guys deal with that?
Well, I'll say that the inspiration for the food, well, first of all, we're attracting a variety of folks in terms of hosts. So everyone from next week, we have a former host from MTV who teaches people how to be more authentic on camera, influencers, YouTubers, how to be more authentic on camera, to a few weeks ago, we had a quantum healing retreat. So there's a variety of folks, but the through line is generally health and wellness to some capacity. Right. We've chosen to be a plant-based campus. Now that freaks certain people out because they're like, wait a minute, where's my meat? Where's my protein? Where's my cheese? And I was the same way. And admittedly, I still have sushi when I'm off the campus, but there is something powerful about standing for something bigger than yourself. And it's not a moral discussion. It's just, how do you feel when you're in that environment? And then we found our chef, one of the most sought after chefs in Costa Rica. In fact, he wouldn't do a contract with anybody because he was enjoying freelancing so much, Chef Pedro. And when we heard Pedro's story of having a brain tumor and healing it with Ayurvedic medicine and plant-based nutrition over the last 6 years, when we heard that story, by the way, it left him deaf and blind in one eye, which is just a profoundly transformative experience when you're eating the food that he used and is using to cure himself. There's a profound connection at that moment when you learn that story and you're meeting Pedro and the whole kitchen staff. You realize, and when you also feel very nourished, like that was number one for me, because I was not vegan when I moved to Costa Rica and co-founded Imiloa. I wasn't eating meat, but I was more of a vegetarian. But I said it is so important that we can be all philosophical about let's, make people feel great, but they need to actually not feel hungry. It needs to deal with the objections that we often have, which is that you don't have enough or it's just rice and vegetables. And Pedro is like a 5-star experience through and through. It's remarkable. And the food's been well received. And we have men come and day 1 and 2, like these big burly men that come from Oklahoma. We had just a group and they were like, what do you mean it's plant-based? They didn't tell them. And by day 3, 4, 5, and by the end, they were totally transformed by the new possibility in their life. So that's the food. It's we're totally accommodating to everything, gluten-free, whatever it is. And that's part of the beauty of we become the COO of the retreat, right? So there's a series of kickoff calls with our director of retreats. And in that, you really build out both the experience and the logistics so that by 30 days before, you and your guests locked and loaded. There's nothing else to do. Touchdown to takeoff, we got you. And I think that really makes people feel good. And we make modifications as we're going through, but we like to really make sure everything is just perfect before, so that way you can have just a flawless experience.
Yeah, and I think that's really important to our retreat leaders because for the most part, transformational leaders are more focused on the transformation that they're offering on their retreat, and the details sometimes get them a little overwhelmed and frustrated. So when you're working in partnership with a retreat center that really has your success in mind, and that you can have a conversation with and say, okay, this is the kind of experience that I want for my people. Can you help me create that?
Yeah.
That in itself is a really great bonus because, you know, I've done retreats in all different environments like boutique hotels, retreat centers, villas. And I think when you're staying someplace where they get the theme of your retreat, and so they want to really help you, they get it. And they can have some suggestions as to, you know, what you could do or how you can do it. After all, you know what surrounds the retreat center. So you could say, well, this would make a really special day for your people, or this trip would be, you could do a ceremony there or something beautiful. I think that level of care and help is really critical to a successful retreat. At least that's my point of view about it. So that's nice.
From your mouth up to the skies and the heavens, Sherry.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is. I agree with you. And I think that it's, yeah, I'll just agree with you. Yeah.
Okay. So the other thing I want to ask about is, you know, I know at Imiloa, when people reserve space, they're actually reserving the whole facility. So no one else is going to be there at the same time. So for those of you that are thinking about going to Costa Rica and possibly coming to Imiloa, you need to know that. So there's some very serious benefits about not having anyone else's energy in your space when you're teaching and doing your thing. So that's really special. And Jake, tell everybody, how many rooms do you guys have? And I know all the rooms you basically can put 2 people in, so you can have 2 beds in there. So if you could share a little bit about the accommodations and how many people max you can have at the facility.
Yeah. So one of the things, and it goes back to what we're standing for in the world, we have masters and teachers who often host much larger groups than our capacity of 34 people. So we can host 34 double occupancy standard. That's kind of like a standard accommodation. We can go up to 40, but it requires several of the accommodations to be quads, which are 4 beds to 1 bath. We offer that in case there's a group maybe that wants to offer budget accommodations or really wants to fill it out. We have several that just, can we go to 40? And so we're happy to do that. But 34 is the standard double accommodation. And we did our research and we realized that holding, and you've been on this for much longer than I have. I think you hosted your first one in 2000, right? Or you started.
Well, I helped Don Miguel Ruiz when I worked for him from 2000 to 2002, and we had some groups of 80 people back then. I mean,
Sherry is so ahead of the wave on it. I started to see this trend of retreats and in-person experiences, but more importantly, intimate in-person experiences. As becoming a natural brand extension for authors, for healers, it's becoming this thing. It's like, how come you weren't on Facebook or Instagram 10 years ago? It became a natural brand extension. Investors in Imiloa, they were like, so when are we going to have the 200 person event for the equinox or whatever it is, right? For the spring. And we said, that's actually not what we're about. We're about these intimate, highly curated spaces, even for those who may be used to hosting much larger events. So 34 double occupancy. There are 17 luxury rooms. All are en suite. Like I said, there's a variety of those up on the cliff overlooking the ocean. You can get the Jurassic jungle feel in our geodesic domes. Whatever. I love the Jurassic, and people think sometimes, oh, geodesic dome. Honey, that flooring is imported. That bathroom is marble. It is gorgeous. You're in the jungle, but you're in the 5-star Barefoot Experience again. So it's nice. It's a nice blend.
Absolutely. So tell me what got you into this, Jake, because I know people are going to want to know, like, how the heck did this guy get into wanting to have anything to do with this retreat center in the middle of like the jungle?
Yeah.
Tell us, Jake,
I
like
love,
what's the skivvy here?
I love, oh my God, I love her so much. So, you know, it started, I should say, I had a career in television before this in my 20s. And it was filled with a lot of hustle and a lot of burning of the ego, burning the candle at both sides, really. And that was the ego, fueling that in many ways. And it led to just constant disappointment, constant emptiness, until finally at 27, the bottom gave out. And I ended up facing my greatest fear, to be totally honest. I lost all my TV contracts, all my money, all my relationships with friends in New York City. And I had nowhere to go besides my grandma's basement in the middle of Maine. I was 27 years old. And after flying really high, having this sort of plunge down to reality in many regards, seeing the effects of my behavior, it was a very sobering experience, to be honest with you. Anyways, I was in the basement. I like to fondly call it the basement because it's the basement. It was the basement, Sherry. I was in the basement for 2 years. I was expecting to be there for a month. And I started and failed at 5 businesses. So I also get that. I mean, I really get that. I started and failed at 5 businesses in the basement because I'm an entrepreneur. I'm not going to go work for somebody else. So it was like my options were very limited. And I learned a lot through that process. And what I learned most importantly was surrender. Surrender, not giving in, not giving up, but it's just surrendering to the will that is, the inexplicable, oftentimes, will that is. And so after 2 years starting and failing at 5 businesses, the 6th one worked. It was a podcast called The Jake Sasseville Show, ironically. And, it did 300 episodes and several million downloads. And I was really proud of that thing. And as I started to earn money again, because I wasn't earning money when I was in the basement, I realized I didn't want to be in New York or LA. I wanted to be somewhere else. And so I got this house on Maui in the middle of the Hawaiian Islands at the midmost point in the Pacific. And it was, neighbors to Oprah, dream come true, excuse me. And I went from this basement to living in this 4,000 square foot home. And I set an intention. I wanted my life to be about service at that point because I had been so focused on taking that I wanted my life to just be fully of service. I kept the doors unlocked for 3 years. I had 3,000 people show up. Everyone from Rwandan genocide survivors writing their memoir to, people who just needed to come to Maui to heal. And if there was a room, they could stay. And I made a lot of friends this way, I got to tell you, and word just kind of spread. Yeah, a lot of friends. And I realized that there was something in this about opening your home up to the world and having the world show up and creating a space like that. And so then the idea of Imiloa started to germinate. And actually it was a Hawaiian elder that named Imiloa, which literally translates into, it's a Hawaiian word, and it means creativity expressed through wonder and imagination.
Wow, I love that. Thanks
so there
for
you
sharing
go.
that.
Yeah, creativity. So and I feel that is our nature, our human nature is to be creative. And so anyways, I had just met my business partner at that point. We started buying real estate, and I said, I got to tell you about Imiloa. And together we raised the money to be able to purchase this center. And now we're building one on every continent on the planet.
Okay, I just have to say a few things about
Please.
this to my community, if you don't mind.
No, please.
So I really appreciate you being really transparent about this, Jake, because one thing that happens in the entrepreneurial world that kind of I find a little frustrating is the lack of transparency. And it looks like people are doing all wonderful and roses and unicorn and all of that. And normally the path doesn't go like that. You know what I mean? There are ups and downs and so-called failures. Well, actually, I don't even believe in that word. I don't think you can fail. I just think you can have outcomes that you didn't expect or weren't looking for. And to me, that's not a failure. It's simply a call to redirect. And I want to encourage everybody listening in the community, because I know some of them are having a hard time building their businesses to fill their retreats. And there are some people that are going gangbusters, but I just want everyone to realize that if you have it in your heart to serve, and if you take that perspective, like what Jake said, I think that's the road to success, is really not being on the taking side and on the side of entitlement, but to know that you're serving. Like for me, I love serving my community, and I can't think of a better group of people to be working with. It brings joy to my heart. And I can really hear in your story, Jake, how happy you are to serve this group of people who are doing transformational work and changing the world. So anyway, I just want everybody to take in Jake's story and understand it's okay if things are not going your way, but to keep going. And if you really have a mission in your heart, you have to see it through. And you will leave the basement.
I promise.
Exactly.
I
You will.
promise, yeah. And it should be noted too, Sherry, just very briefly, I had been to one retreat before I started this retreat center. I was not like a retreat guy. I wasn't airy-fairy in the clouds, although I love them so much and they all come to Imiloa and go crazy. I just was a guy that liked to host people in my home because I saw the potential in that. And so I think that's important because sometimes you can be very sort of dog on the bone when you're an entrepreneur. I have to be doing this. My identity's wrapped up in, and I just kind of let go. And I said, oh, what could that be? I got curious.
Right.
You know, I got curious. Yeah.
So as far as Imiloa goes, what are some of the unique things that if we book a retreat there that you guys can do? Like, I know you have a waterfall. Tell me a little bit about that and some of the other unique, like, little aspects that are special about Imiloa.
Yeah, well, I shared about the accommodations. I think those are pretty unique to have that variety and for them all to feel like home and not a retreat center, not a boutique. You also highlighted the fact that we're a closed gate campus. And people often expect to pay more than what we charge for that closed gate experience. It was so important to us to not have groups intersecting because for a variety of reasons, although we recommend people who want to be at that type of environment. We have places in Costa Rica that we gladly refer clients into that have multiple groups at the same time. And, you know, that works for some folks. The waterfall, we discovered it only after we bought. It's in the middle of the jungle. So we had to build 350 stairs down the side of the mountain to this waterfall. You know, that's called do your due diligence, Sherry Rosenthal. We didn't know we had a waterfall. You know, and then we have our 3,000 square foot massive, we call it the House of Masters because we're really in the business of attracting masters and mastery and teachers. So our House of Masters is basically the classroom. It's the it's basically a yoga pavilion. Looks like a spaceship taken off to space. The way that, you know, the big Bali roofs, and it was used for yoga by the previous owner. We've really outfitted it to be. It's a great yoga space. It's a great classroom space, and that's really beautiful. There are probably a dozen or 2 miles of paths that run throughout the property. So that House of Masters that I just shared with you, the classroom, is the heart center of the property. And from there in the heart, I'm speaking to a former MD, or an MD, this will be good. The arteries of the heart are the paths throughout the campus. And so the paths lead you to the variety of accommodations. And I think that that's really unique. I think the staff is really unique. The team that we have there is it's you know, the national sort of slang for Costa Rica, or what you say when you get there, or when you really have a connection with someone, is pura vida, which means pure life. And these guys just, you know, I get to see them in a few days. I'm traveling right now, and I'm excited to go back to Imiloa. I'm excited to see the staff. Can I be honest with you? I love them so much. I think that's very unique. I think the fact that we just handle everything, you know, it's not just ground transport it's these luxury SUVs that pick you up. It's like a motorcade coming down the Pan American Highway, 2.5 hours to Costa Rica. It's a nice experience. It's just a very, you know, if you're going to do the retreat and you want to do it right and you're attracted to Costa Rica, it's just an enjoyable experience. And that's what we're interested in creating. Yeah. And I think the fact you mentioned it earlier, but I wanted to also say the fact that you can literally go to your kickoff calls. You might have some curriculum in mind, but you can go to your kickoff calls. We have 3 after you sign a contract with India and the whole operations team. And I've seen India. Obviously, if you want to do horseback riding or zip lining, we can do that. But some people are just like, I want to have the feeling of freedom, or I want to be connected to the indigenous, ancestors of Costa Rica. Some people just have feelings of what they would like to see in their event as part of an excursion. And India and the team create something that is wholly unique to that client. And she does it. It's not an arduous task for us. That's the thing is, whereas some people might be, oh boy, we got a live wire here. For us, it is a true joy to be able to co-create with clients. Right. And we just love doing that. And I think that's unique. I mean, I haven't done a ton of market research, to be honest, but from what I'm hearing from the people, I think those are some unique offerings. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. So guys, if you want to ask Jay questions, you can post below. This video isn't going anywhere. And Jay can answer those questions for you. Sure. I'm going to put the URL for Imiloa above so you can take a look if you like. And it's just a really special place. I really like what Jake's doing and what's behind it, because there's a lot of places that I could recommend. But I think what Jake is trying to accomplish here is something special, and I think we need to pay attention. So
thank you, Sherry.
Oh, you're welcome, honey. So that's why I invited Jake on today. So Jake, thank you so much for taking the time out of your travels to hook up with me and chat. I'm in Lisbon right now, and you're, I think, in Hawaii right now. So like we're both traveling, and it's really fun to connect like this. And please, I'm sure my community will be asking you some questions, and we'd love to have, your expertise in some of the answers. Okay.
I can't wait. Yeah, I'll check back in.
All right. Goodbye, everybody. Thanks, I love you so much.